Ladies and gentlemen, today we are checking out the many unsolved mysteries of the Black Ops franchise. I am recording on my phone because my webcam cable broke. So today, let's get into this. Shout out to Baby K-Dot as well for allowing me to react. Let's get it. Oh, we got that July 4th. We got that Call of Duty Black Ops, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, the numbers, Mason. Oh, it's so loud. It's so loud. Oh my gosh. Turn that down, brother.
13.
Oh my gosh.
The Black Ops series are some of the most intricate and best written
Without
games
a doubt.
ever made.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt,
brother.
Better than some Popeyes biscuits.
Yes, sir.
But the franchise also includes many mysteries and conspiracy theories.
Hey, is it better than Chick-fil-A? I don't think so.
Yet to be solved to this day. It's creepy, fun, unsettling, but also a lot of fun. So today we're taking
a lot of that's going away, though. You know, hopefully it comes back for BL6.
Trying to solve them once and for all. Make sure you subscribe because we make videos you won't
Big
find anywhere else. And starting us off is, of course, Victor
my boy
Reznov, age 50, born in the
dude. He has to come back for Black Ops 6. I feel like people have been talking about that for so long now recently.
Soviet Union.
Like he's got it,
first
you know.
Appears in World at War, where you
got
fight
it.
alongside him for the motherland. But Alex Mason and Reznov have both been captured and are now held at one of the most deadliest prison camps to ever exist. Reznov creates his famous 8 steps of freedom and leads the escape from the prison. He pulls you out the tear gas, and then you wake up.
Literally the only thing that has
every one of
origins
these
and
communist
everything.
and then you jump for freedom, so you don't have to eat Russian prison slop anymore. But then
real,
Reznov doesn't follow us and is presumably killed. So it appears that Reznov has sacrificed himself.
And then after that, the only time we ever see him is in Black Ops 2 and Mob of the Dead, the Pack Punch AK-47, Reznov's Revenge, man.
Fortunately, has
died.
Because we know that throughout the game, we see Reznov and are even fighting alongside him multiple times. However, we later learn from Hudson that Victor Reznov died 5 years earlier in the escape from Vorkuta.
Victor Reznov's been dead for 5 years.
BO1 campaign is so goated. I have to play it soon
again, man. All the years you
man.
thought he was with you, that was just in your mind.
It's just in your head.
Game, he wasn't actually there. It was just the brainwashing he did to us so that we could kill
him.
Like,
they did a pretty good job with, like, Cold War and Adler trying to, like, recreate this, but, bro, they gotta bring the heat for BL6.
Jagovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. We know this to be true because not a single other person ever even acknowledged him in the entire game.
Are these your men?
Woods, Bowman.
I am Rez. What took you so long, Mason?
See, it's so interesting. Yeah, they don't even acknowledge him. They just go straight to Mason. Wow. Like, so many little subtle things that the Black Ops franchise included.
But there's actually a theory that Victor Reznov is still alive. And no, this isn't just some crazy claim made by a crack addict I saw next.
Well, okay, they confirmed for BO6 that Alex Mason is dead. Right? So maybe Reznov could come back. That would be weird if Mason is dead and Reznov is alive.
To Walmart.
What the
okay,
heck?
maybe it is. You see, in Black Ops 2, which takes place 20 years after BO1, we once again see Reznov as we are about to die. Of course, this could just be another hallucination from
Definitely
Mason,
a hallucination,
but then again, he already knows that Reznov brainwashed him and that it's all in his mind. Now, obviously, this isn't concrete evidence and could very well just be another episode of Mason. However, this is just scratching the surface. Because what if I told you...
It's crazy. I would say Reznov is like one of the oldest characters in all of Call of Duty, and yet still people talk about him returning to this day. Like, I feel like eventually Treyarch is just going to do it just because of that.
There's actually a lot of evidence in Black Ops 1 proving that Reznov may not actually be dead, and the whole story we know is a lie. Because at the end of the day, we or anybody else never physically saw Reznov's body when he died. And if you take the codes that are scrubbed out at the start of every mission and decipher them, it actually translates to this: Reznov is dead, or is he dead? There was no body. Is he who he says he is?
Dude, I would play a whole Black Ops game just to figure out if Reznov's alive or dead. Legit. Maybe not many of y'all would, but I definitely would. Like, you don't really get that sense of mystery nowadays in Black Ops.
We never saw Reznov's body, and we never saw concrete evidence that he was dead. But an even bigger clue that was left for us is in the computer from our interrogation room. There was a bunch of emails sent to Jason Hudson from an anonymous user by the name of John Trent. And man, these emails are flippin' scary. In the first one, he says, "You don't know me, but I know Alex Mason.
What the heck?
Trust me. Everything changes."
Some deep dark web energy right there, bro.
The second email says, says it was by the hand of Nikita Dragovich. This is just the beginning. Start at Vorkuta.
So you know what's interesting is I think they do this to specifically tease things for the future. I just went to the transit like monologue, like the description, and if you check out the words and black out some of them, you can actually see that the truth lies is a huge thing that they're promoting with this next Call of Duty Zombies game, apparently for Transit and Liberty Falls, the new Zombies map. So it's a common thing they do. It's a common thing.
So what it's referring to is Nikita Dragovich's brainwashing that he did to Mason in Vorkuta. But then he also says that they are everywhere, stating that there's a lot of these MK Ultra Soviet spies out there, including Alex Mason. But that last line, he says 2 people escaped the breakout, obviously being Mason and Reznov. However, he goes on to say the other one just died. Then in the third email, John Trent is now writing to JFK, and he says, "You have 1 day left." This is obviously referencing how Dragovich had tried to program Mason to...
Listen, and I have seen a Wendigoon video where he goes in depth and talks explicitly about the whole JFK stuff, and like, oh my gosh, if you know about the real world history and then you put it into the Black Ops history, it makes it way more interesting. It truly is a mystery.
Assassinate JFK, which he actually may have, but we'll get to that in just a bit, because the last line of this email states the words, "Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice." Which is, of course, Reznov's iconic phrase he said to Mason in Vorkuta.
Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, Mason.
But what might put the nail in the coffin is this final email sent by John Trent to Jason Hudson, where he says, "You have done well. Please tell Mason one last thing. This time, it's freedom for both of us." Of course, alluding to Reznov's last words about freedom that he said to Mason.
Your turn! Come on! Step 8, Reznov! Freedom!
Dude, if they tease those messages in a campaign mission and then bring Reznov back, that would be crazy. But like, how would that work, bro? For current day, he would be like 900 years old. He wouldn't even be physically alive, you know? He's too old.
Not for me!
Not for me!
Now, who else would know this much about Mason's escape from Vorkuta, such as the words and catchphrases being said to him, or even the fact that they told JFK himself that this was gonna happen? There is nobody else who would possibly know that JFK was about to die. But the last piece of evidence that proves Reznov is still alive is in Black Ops 4, where we can hear this insane audio recording.
Yeah, I brought him back, using your fucking numbers.
What?
Numbers.
Dude, they were gonna bring him back for BO4. That is mad. Maybe it's still something they have tucked away, because like Black Ops Cold War didn't really get to execute on a lot of these ideas because it was rushed during the pandemic, but like maybe this could.
No longer.
Oh my god.
All right, he's in here. You ready? Duh. Mason!
Yeah, it's better be goddamn good, because you woke me up.
Mason! You look like hammered shit.
And this is the thing, man. All of these voice lines as well are with the original VAs. In Cold War, all these voice actors got replaced. Like, that's the worst part as well. It's all in your mind, man.
Oh.
Oh, no, man.
No, Mason! Mason, stop! Stop! He's real!
What the heck? That's crazy! I've never heard of this. What the heck?
Mason,
Reznov's alive, man.
It is me, comrade.
Whoa. How has nobody talked about this from BO4? This just goes to show, like, BO4 has to be the most overlooked game, like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
What the heck?
He was the first. The first one. The first archetype.
Now, I know Black Ops 4 is a little weird, and in the game there's these things called archetypes, which basically reanimate a human into life form again. Yeah, it's like some Freddy Fazbear FNAF type
it was
stuff
for their
going
like
on.
simulation, yeah, for the
this is that
campaign
even
for
with
BO4.
the archetype, Wood specifically says that he survived and made it out of Vorkuta. Now,
and they're in Verrucht saying that, bro. That is so weird. Like, BO4 tied in so much bizarre lore. Like, they kind of did it as a cool thing, but then Cold War just kind kind of made it too generic. You know what I mean?
It's not 100% certain, but if you ask me, I think Reznov is still out there. However,
Oh,
moving on to
man,
our
that's
next mystery, which is,
crazy.
did Alex Mason
I would love
actually
to
kill
see him
JFK?
return.
Now, near the beginning of the game, when we're meeting him,
Even if it's just a reference, like, I like how he's subtly coming back in these, like, newer games. So please, Black Ops 6, give us a Reznov reference for real.
we have a hallucination.
Did
and we
Mason
go into
take out
slow motion
JFK?
before
Yeah,
pulling out
true.
our gun and aiming it at him.
That's
However, there's
true.
no way he died here, because I think if there's only 2 people in a room,
I
and
can't
one of
believe this
them dies,
happens
then,
in 5,
you know
man.
what happened. But also because JFK was killed on November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas, Texas, where he was shot by a 6.5 millimeter military sniper. And the shooter was...
Well, and this is the thing, like, do they take the universe and make it separate from the Black Ops 1, or is it just like a video game? Like, this is where, you know, the lines blur, I guess you could say.
presumably Lee Harvey Oswald, who was then killed 2 days later. And a lot of people say that they killed Lee Harvey Oswald because he wasn't the shooter, or at least he wasn't only acting alone, and the CIA wanted JFK dead to pursue the war in Vietnam. This led the CIA to kill Lee Harvey Oswald so that he wouldn't snitch on the other gunmen or on the CIA, like his name is 6ix9ine. And that other shooter...
Bro, listen, if you want to see the real conspiracies of it, check out Wendigoon's video. Like I said, there's an amazing video he did of it, and to be honest, it sounds like Wendigoon knows the truth, man. I don't know, I don't want to doubt him, but
may have just been Alex Mason himself, and maybe Dragovich didn't even have to brainwash him because the CIA told him to do it anyway. This is a cutscene at the end of the game that is narrated by Alex Mason.
22. 6.5 millimeter.
That's just more numbers, Mason. Texas. You're just saying things. But then when you see the actual shot, yeah, this is crazy. I remember seeing that.
Blind people watching the video, but yes,
you can see Mason in there
on November 22nd, 1963, the day of JFK's assassination. This 100% confirms that Mason was there, but the only question remaining is that if he did listen to Dragovich and kill JFK for the benefit of the Soviet Union, then why does he still continue to work for the CIA for years to come? I'm sure if some guy walked in and killed the president, he would not be allowed to still go fight.
That's true. That's true.
Well, this brings up the point I talked about earlier, which is that this was an inside job by the CIA, which does follow one of the most popular theories that is used in real life, in which Lee Harvey
Wendigoon theory, but it's not coined by him. It's the only place I know it from, bro.
Second gunman, with that second gunman being Alex Mason in this case. And so Alex Mason and Lee Harvey Oswald were both ordered by the CIA to kill JFK because they wanted to send more military to Vietnam. And if you know anything about the Vietnam War, America didn't send more troops in real life until President Johnson took over after JFK's death. So Oswald and Mason completed the job, but Oswald was used as the scapegoat and then killed by another CIA member so that he wouldn't snitch like he's gonna. This would explain why Dragovich says this at the end of the game.
It's like they turned me against my own.
Right.
Like I'm making kill my own president.
Dude, yeah, that line is so just like, it hits your core with how evil it is. Like, the delivery of it is just, oh.
Remark could be because he knows that either the CIA or at least Mason himself was definitely involved in this assassination. Now, while there is a few holes in this story, I do think it makes the most sense. And in my opinion, I believe that Alex Mason was definitely involved in JFK's death. But moving on to the next mystery, which comes from Black Ops 2, where Woods is tasked with killing the Nexus target. Hudson says is Raul Menendez.
So this actually got answered with the release of Black Ops 6, which is actually unreal. And it is confirmed with all of the new stuff in Call of Duty that yes, Alex Mason is indeed KIA. Rest in peace, brother. Rest in peace. He's gone. But if Mason is dead and Reznov is alive in this next game, that's it, dog. That's it, dude.
Nexus target is Raul Menendez.
Yeah, he thinks it's Raul, but it's Mason.
The person we just killed is our best friend Alex Mason, and then Menendez blows our kneecaps out, leaving us handicapped.
Yeah, that was
what happened was
like top one most brutal scene in Call of Duty, hands down.
Hudson was held hostage, and they threatened to either maybe kill him or the little boy David, which is Mason's son, if Hudson didn't tell Woods to kill him. And then Hudson gets his throat slit anyway. But if we decide to shoot Mason in the leg, he actually lives, and we meet him at the end of the game. But the thing is, when Woods shot him, it was over 30 years ago. So if Mason was alive all that time, why would he not try to track down either Woods or his son? And I'm not the only one thinking this.
Where the fuck you been for 30 years?
So where exactly was Mason throughout this time? Well, these are a few probable theories that I came up with. First is that Mason probably waited until Menendez was captured.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter because Black Ops 6 is using the canon of Alex Mason has died. All of this is basically just conjecture, which is unfortunate. So this is all basically just a fan ending. This is a non-canon ending.
Captured or killed until revealing himself because he didn't want his son or Woods to be tracked down by Menendez. Think about it. Mason comes at the end of the game after Menendez is killed or captured. Right. And if Mason revealed himself
and ultimately, like, I can understand why Treyarch didn't explain it because of the fact that they're not going for this canon. They're going for the canon of Mason died. Which I think is more impactful.
Like a year after we see those events take place
Makes
in that
more
basement
sense.
Or wherever we were. Mason most likely woke up, saw Hudson dead or was dragged somewhere and knew Woods was missing. Because if he were to suddenly come back and then Menendez found out he was alive after that, then he probably would have tracked them all down and tried to kill him. Especially due to the fact that for Mason to be alive, we have to shoot him in the legs twice. So who knows if he was even able to walk.
And like ultimately that would not have been realistic in the Black Ops 2 scenario campaign mission. Like it wouldn't have happened, you know.
That's probably why he didn't come back, because even if he did, he wouldn't be able to help the CIA or Special Forces since he's now handicapped. And he would only be putting his family and best friends in more danger without being able to do anything about it. And so Mason waited until Menendez was captured or killed to come back into his family's life. But obviously there's still a few holes with his explanation, because even if Mason did want to wait until it was safe, I mean 30 years is a long time. And remember, by now he would be over 90 years old.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Ultimately, it doesn't make sense. Like 30 years of doing nothing for your best friend and your son. Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
At some point,
I don't want to hear it. Treyarch just didn't think about it.
Waiting, you know, he would come back.
Like,
or at
it's
least
so
let
obvious.
His son and friend know that he's alive. Hey, I know that guilt you've been living with all your life. Well, guess what? You're a lousy shot. You didn't actually kill me.
Lousy shot.
How are you? I know I missed out on your whole life, and I'm an old man, probably gonna die in a few years. But hey, here I am. I mean, the fact
that is also the best looking 9-year-old I've ever seen, bro.
Even lived to 92 years old is already crazy in and of itself. So while this theory can't technically be true, there's a few things that if you look at it from a real life perspective, it doesn't quite add up. Now another reason he wasn't there could be that maybe he didn't want to raise his son. I mean, we know there's a lot of deadbeat fathers out there. What if Mason is just another one of them? Yes, this theory is that after Mason regained consciousness, he decided to stop working for the CIA and became a normal guy living under the radar in like Arkansas or something, met a woman, started a whole new family, so basically
it wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't have made sense. You can have all the theories in the world, and I am glad that Treyarch went away from this for their canon.
For Mason's absence is that he was held at a Soviet labor camp for the last 35 years.
Yeah, that would have been ridiculous.
Not Vorkuta, but a different
then how would he have got back to
America?
America?
This time, and there was no Reznov, so this time he wasn't able to amount an incredible.
That would be a sick game. I'm not gonna lie though, if they did an alternate ending type canon, added Reznov, added Mason. All in Russia, the whole game set in Russia. It's like Stranger Things season 4, basically. That would be sick, man.
Yeah, it sounds a little ridiculous, but I mean, it does make sense. What if Mason was captured by authorities in Panama and then sent away to a labor camp somewhere again? And then after 30 years was finally released. I mean, it all technically adds up. The only problem is that Mason would have been 70, 80, 90 years old. And
this is my issue with a lot of the time jumps that Black Ops has, is like, especially with this story from Black Ops 1 and 2, it's so hard to connect, especially with any of the games moving forward other than Cold War that's set in the 80s, right? So it's tough. Like, I love these campaigns, and it's just sad that like we got futuristic stuff a lot of the time over just an alternate campaign with like Reznov, which everybody would have wanted at the time.
I don't know if he would
hopefully
have fared
people
well
still
in a
do.
camp.
I don't
But hey,
know.
then again, Reznov was pretty old too, and he did well for himself, so maybe Mason could do it after all. The final mystery we'll be talking about today is kind of what we were mentioning earlier in the video, which is, if it wasn't Reznov who saved Mason and Woods in the desert, then who was it?
That's
well, of course,
true.
Mason himself claimed it to be Victor Reznov. Woods
Ultimately, I think it's like a matter of yourself. This reminds me of like Harry Potter 3, where he's like, who cast the Patronus charm? And he's like, oh, it was my dad. It was my dad. But then you learn, spoiler alert, sorry, 15 years old movie or whatever. You learn that it was him, you know? So I think like it's the same thing. Like the way it was revealed at the end of Black Ops 1 that Mason was impersonating Reznov, I think it's the same thing. They're trying to show that those effects are more there rather than a new storyline thread is emerging, you know?
Obviously questions it because he says, why wouldn't Reznov stick around to maybe answer some questions? Which
Exactly.
is an astute observation from Mr. Woods. It definitely makes sense. There's no way it could have been Reznov. But then again, if it was just...
Half of me just thinks Treyarch just was like spitballing and they're like, what if we do this or what if we do that, and like that was basically what Black Ops 2 was with all the alternate endings. So you can tell they didn't think all the way through with a lot of them for sure.
Just a random group of people, then why didn't they stick around to explain as well? And keep in mind, it's Woods telling us this story about Reznov, so deep down he must have a little sparkle that says to him, you know, what if it was Reznov? Because at the end of the day, he doesn't really know and can't prove it wasn't Reznov. If it was Reznov, yeah, don't you think he want to catch up with Mason? But
it's just interesting though, because he really has a very vivid hallucination about Reznov, like quite HD crystal clear here. We got the evidence, but yeah, honestly, it would be very cool if a lot of this Reznov stuff does get answered in future titles, especially with BO6 taking place in the 90s and being around a lot of the eras of all of this. So that would be really cool in my opinion.
But also the bigger question is, how would Victor Reznov randomly show up to the Afghanistan desert and then just so happen to find Mason and the crew to nurse them back to life? I don't think a Soviet 80-year-old would just be having a stroll in the desert. However, to make sense of this, we also do know that Kravchenko was still alive and he was in fact in the desert at this exact...
Well, okay, and Kravchenko's a great character to bring up because he somehow gets here and then he's also in Cold War Zombies. So honestly, at this point, I'm half expecting Reznov to just show up out of nowhere. Maybe it's zombified Reznov. I don't freaking know. You know?
And we know how much Reznov needs to kill Kravchenko. So maybe Reznov knew he wasn't dead and then he came to the desert looking for Kravchenko and ended up stumbling across Mason. Is it far-fetched? Yes. Is it impossible? No. Another theory is that Mason somehow...
Is Trent gonna make it into a DLC or a game? Most definitely.
Broke free and was just hallucinating and was actually Mason drinking the water himself, and it was Mason also helping everybody else. But the problem with this is that we can see everyone has their hands tied behind their back, and I don't know where Mason would just randomly find water and be able to carry 3 people by himself to safety, so it doesn't quite make sense. The last
that is true. Like it is a very unrealistic scenario, which I fully agree with. How did he do that unless he just became the Hulk? So Black Ops 6, we're waiting for you to answer
and
some
the
questions.
One that most people believe is that it was just some random travelers that saw they needed help. I mean, it makes sense.
It does make sense, but it's just such a like it's such a garbage plot line, you know.
People see other people dying and people help the other people. I know it makes the most sense, but personally, I like to believe Reznov is still alive and was out in the desert when he ended up either tracking down or stumbling upon Mason before saving him once again. But guys,
Baby K-Dot, this was an amazing video. Definitely go make sure to like and sub. And Black Ops 6, you got some answers to give us. I'm gonna be for real.